Hi everyone, this is Elena and I'm back today with another card using the MISTI Creative corners, and this time I am using another new set from Hero Arts. It's called Color Layering Fuchsia, and it comes as a bundle as well as it will be sold individually. So there are little ink cubes that go with it and as well dies. So I'm using my original MISTI, and I have right now positioned my corners, the one with the embedded magnets, into opposite corners. And forgot to mention in my previous videos that you can use those corners to make additional corners in your MISTI. So you don't have two, but you have four. So you can use those if you have smaller stamps for layering. So you can use those four corners and stamp all around the MISTI. So I'm using two of them, and I have stacked them together as shown here in the video. So because I want to stamp off the page, so I'm using that branch. I want to have design all over my panel. So I'm trying to position that branch for the fuchsia, and I'm just doing a trial run here to see when I turn it around if it will overlap or not. I don't want to overlap. I don't want to stamp on top of the flower, so I'm just moving it, moving it a little bit up so they don't overlap when they're stamped. So I'm trying it again. I'm just turning my paper for 180 degrees, and that way I get symmetrical design without moving my stamps from the lid of the MISTI. So I like that how it came. So I removed the stamps, I just left the branch, and I'm using Versamark ink to kind of condition and stamp. And then I'm using lime green shadow ink to stamp the branch. So I have a little bit spot that didn't get stamped there, so I did it again, and I'm turning it around and stamping that branch one more time. Next, I'm gonna layer the second step from the leaves, and I'll be using the moss ink cube from the color layering fuchsia ink cubes. So I have all four of those positioned, and just inking them up and stamping, and then turning my paper around for 180 degrees and stamping again. So you'll notice that I'm stamping off the page, so those corners help me achieve that without interfering with the corner of the edge of the MISTI. So next I'm taking the flowers, the first step of the flowers that I'll stamp in soft pink shadow ink. So I'm just positioning everything where I want to be, and then I'll close the lid and pick those stamps up on the lid of my MISTI. So I'm just trying to position where I want the flowers to be, which one go where. So now I pick them up. I'm again conditioning my stamps, and then I'm using soft pink shadow ink. I'm stamping once, and that one of the flowers didn't ink up completely, so I'm repeating that, and I'm again inking my stamps and over stamping on top. So I'm turning it around for 180 degrees like the previous for the branch, and I'm stamping again twice. So because the ink is a little bit more wet than usual because I stamped twice, I'm just heat setting it a little bit, drying it with my heat tool. I'm using the Hero Arts Wagner heat tool. Next I'm positioning the second steps, and I will stamp those in hot pink. And this ink cube came with in the color layering fuchsia ink cube set. I'm sorry, here you saw my face or my head a little bit. I'm just trying to kind of position that, center it, so it looks, it stamps like right where I want it to be. Just trying to position everything, close the lid, pick those up. Kind of make sure that paper is snug in the corner. Next, I'm conditioning the stamps and using that hot pink to stamp the second step. Now I'm turning it around, and stamping it again for the other set of flowers. Next, I'm positioning the third step, and I'm gonna use the passion flower shadow ink. So here I'm doing one by one because it was easier to pick those one by one without messing them up too much. So we have 4 of those for the little bulb. So I'm positioning that one, picking it up with the lid, and then we have one more left. I'll put it on top, position it, kind of center it there. I think that's good, picking it up. And then I'm conditioning my stamps again, and I'm using the passion flower shadow ink to stamp that. So I'll do it one more time to make sure I have even coverage, turning it around, and I'm doing the same thing again. So I'm doing twice so they have the same shade as on the other side. Now I'm heat setting because I'll stamp over the purple with grape juice for the 4th step of the flowers. So I'm just positioning those one by one again and picking them up one by one with the lid. So we have that one picking it up. So we have, and I think this stamp set was a little bit harder to figure out which one goes where, but once you have done it once, after that it's pretty easy and you know which stamp goes where and layers. I think what I'll do, like with a Sharpie marker, I'll mark the flowers which goes with which layer, so it's easier for the future. So I'm just stamping those, the 4th layer of the flowers, and we're done here. Next I'm using Wink of Stella shimmer pen, the clear one, and I'm coloring over the flowers to give them a little bit of interest and a little bit of shimmer. They kind of look too plain for me, so I like to add a little bit of sparkle to my cards. Underneath, you'll notice I already have a purple card base, like dark purple, that I'll use for my actual card base. So I'm just coloring slowly, making sure that I don't blend the inks too much, because sometimes this shimmer pen can pick up the ink, but I think in this case worked fine without blending the colors. So I'm just going over the flowers one by one. When it comes to coloring, I'm pretty slow, so because I want to be perfect. And I'm trying not to color outside the lines of the flowers. So I'm almost done here. And this is the last one. Kind of this, the fuchsia reminded me of my grandma. She had in her yard always pots with fuchsia flowers. So now I cut a layer, little oval, from the same purple cardstock, and I'm using the new infinity dies, the oval infinity dies, and I'm gonna stamp the sentiment with sympathy. I'm actually making this card for a friend. So next I decided that I wanted to add another flower in the corners. It kind of looked empty. So I'm just adding that really quickly. I'm gonna stamp on both edges. Not both edges, but both corners. So I'm gonna kind of, with the magic of YouTube, in the next couple seconds, I'll have that completed. So I'm just doing the first layer, layering the second one. Kind of heat setting that so I can stamp over it without the inks bleeding into each other because they're still wet. So I'm using here hot fuchsia, hot pink, not hot fuchsia. And then turning it around, doing it again. So now I have it completed by the magic of YouTube. So next I want to stamp the With Sympathy sentiment onto my little oval. So I'm first stamping onto my grid paper, and then I'm going to position on top the negative from my die cut. And I'm using the corner, one of the corners, the second one didn't really fit, so I'm putting that aside. So I'm using that as a template to put my die cut in, so I can stamp straight, can stamp that sentiment straight. So I'm using the little embossing buddy. So because I'm going to use white embossing powder, and I don't want straight powder going onto my little oval. So just stamp that with Versamark. Next I'm using some Hero Arts white embossing powder. I'm gonna kind of dunk that oval into my container of embossing powder. Gonna make sure that I have good coverage and I don't have a lot of stray particles of the embossing powder. I'll heat set that. So there we have. That's pretty much done, and I'm just now trying to figure out where I want to position that die cut. So I'm just trying to figure out the whole card. So I think at the end I moved that a little bit higher up. Next I noticed that I didn't apply the shimmer pen onto the additional flowers that I stamped towards the end. So I'm going over the flowers with the clear shimmer pen and kind of adding that little bit of sparkle. So then we're done, and I'm kind of going over that oval die cut with the shimmer pen. So next I'm taking some fun foam, and I'm gonna adhere some on the back of my panel that I pre-cut. I already die cut with the Hero Arts Infinity rectangle dies. So I'm just adhering that onto my card base. So there we have, and now the sentiment. And when I decided to trim a little bit off the side, here I had noticed some parts from the embossing are not white, they were not covered, so I'm just adding some white gel pen in those little, to cover those little dots. So next I'm gonna temporarily adhere this onto a scrap piece of cardstock so I can trim that on the side, the little end that I want to come off. So I kind of lined it up so it's straight, trim that little end off, and then I'm kind of trying to decide where I want it to go. So I think a little bit higher up will be fine, and I'll be using some dimensionals to adhere it to add a little bit more dimension. So I think there's fine. I'm adding some dimensionals now on the back. And to add a little bit of interest, I'm adding some sequins. I'm adding I think they're called heather, like the color. Then I'm using the multi-matte medium from Ranger to adhere them onto my card, and on the end I'll use some Wink of Stella not Wink of Stella, but Nuva jewel drops that when they dry clear, and I think those were the periwinkle. They dried look pretty, like very pale purple and translucent. So that's my card for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!